Okay, guys, the richer, the poorer. Over the years, Lottie had urged Bess to prepare for her old age. Over the years, Bess had lived each day as if there were no other. Now they were both past 60, the time for summing up. Lottie had a bank account that had never grown lean. Bess had the clothes on her back and the rest of her worldly possessions in a battered suitcase. Lottie had hated being a child, hearing her parents skimping and scraping. Bess had never seemed to notice. All she ever wanted was to go outside and play. She learned to skate on borrowed skates. She rode a borrowed bicycle. Lottie couldn't wait to grow up and buy herself the best of everything. As soon as anyone would hire her, Lottie put herself to work. She minded babies. She ran errands for the old. She never touched a penny of her money, though her child's mouth watered for ice cream and candy. But she could not bear to share with Bess, who never had anything to share with her. When the dimes began to add up to dollars, she lost her taste for sweets. By the time she was 12, she was clerking after school in a small variety store. Saturdays she worked as long as she wanted. She decided to keep her money for clothes. When she entered high school, she would wear a wardrobe that neither she nor anyone else would be able to match. But her freshman year found her unable to indulge so frivolous a whim, particularly when her admiring instructors advised her to think seriously of college. No one in her family had ever gone to college, and certainly Bess would never get there. She would show them all what she could do if she put her mind to it. She began to bank her money, and her bank book became her most private and precious possession. In her third year high, she found a job in a small but expanding restaurant where she cashiered from the busy hour until closing. In her last year high, the business increased so rapidly that Lottie was faced with the choice of staying in school or working full time. She made her choice easily. A job in hand was worth two in the future. Bess had a beau, or boyfriend, in the school band, who had no other ambition except to play a horn. Lottie expected to be settled with a home and family while Bess was still waiting for Harry to earn enough money to buy a marriage license. That Bess married Harry straight out of high school was not surprising. That Lottie never married at all was not really surprising either. 2 or 3 times she was halfway persuaded, but to give up a job that paid well for a homemaking job that paid nothing was a risk she was incapable of taking. Bess's married life was nothing for Lottie to envy. She and Harry lived like gypsies. Harry playing in a second-rate band all over the country, even getting himself and Bess stranded in Europe. They were often in rags and never in riches. Bess grieved because she had no child, not having sense enough to know she was better off without one. Lottie was certainly better off without nieces and nephews to feel sorry for. Very likely, Bess would have dumped them on their doorstep. That Lottie had a doorstep they might have been left on was only because her boss, having bought a second house, offered Lottie his first house at a price so low and terms so reasonable that it would have been like losing money to refuse. She shut off the rooms she didn't use, letting them go rack to ruin. Since she ate her meals out, she had no food at home and did not encourage callers, who always expected a cup of tea. Her way of life was mean and miserly, but she did not know it. She thought she lived frugally in her middle years so that she could live in comfort and ease when she most needed peace of mind. The years after 40 began to race. Suddenly, Lottie was 60 and retired from her job by her boss's son, who had no sentimental dealing about keeping her on until she was ready to quit. She made several attempts to find other employment, but her dowdy appearance made her look old and inefficient. For the first time in her life, Lottie would gladly have worked for nothing to have some place to go, something to do with her day. Harry died abroad in a third-rate hotel, with Bess weeping as hard as if he had left her a fortune. He had left her nothing but his horn. There wasn't even enough money for her passage home. Lottie, trapped by the blood tie, knew she would not only have to send for her sister, but take her in when she returned. It didn't seem fair that Bess should reap the harvest of Lottie's lifetime of self-denial. It took Lottie a week to get a bedroom ready, a week of hard work and hard cash. There was everything to do, everything to replace or paint. When she was through, the room looked so fresh and new that Lottie felt she deserved it more than Bess. She would let Bess have her room, but the mattress was so lumpy, the carpet was so worn, the curtains so threadbare that Lottie's conscience pricked her. She supposed she would have to redo that room too, and went about doing it with an eagerness that she mistook for haste. When she was through upstairs, she was shocked to see how dismal downstairs looked by comparison. Tried to ignore it, but with nowhere to go to escape it, the contrast grew intolerable. She worked her way from kitchen to parlor, persuading herself she was only putting the rooms to right to give herself something to do. At night, she slept like a child after a long and happy day of playing house. She was having more fun than she had ever had in her life. She was living each hour for itself. There was only a day now before Bess would arrive. Passing her gleaming mirrors, at first with vague awareness, then with painful clarity, Lottie saw herself as others saw her, and could not stand the sight. She went on a spending spree, from specialty shop to beauty salon, emerging transformed into a woman who believed in miracles. She was in the kitchen basting a turkey when Bess rang the bell. Her head raced, and she wondered if the heat from the oven was responsible. She went to the door, and Bess stood before her. Stiffly, she suffered Bess's embrace, her heart racing harder, her eyes sudden, smarting from the onrush of cold air. "Oh, Lottie, it's good to see you," Bess said, but saying nothing about Lottie's splendid appearance. Upstairs, Bess, putting down her shabby suitcase, said, "I'll sleep like a rock tonight," without a word of praise for her lovely room. At the lavish table, top-heavy with turkey, Bess said, "I'll take the light and dark both," with no marveling at the size of the bird, or that there was turkey for 2 elderly women, one of them too poor to buy her own bread. With the glow of good in her stomach, Bess began to spin stories. They were rich with places and people, most of them lowly, all of them magnificent. Her face reflected her telling, the joys and sorrows of her remembering, and above all, the love she lived by that enhanced the poorest place, the humblest person. Then it was that Lottie knew why Bess had made no mention of her finery, or the shining room, or the 12-pound turkey. She had not even seen them. Tomorrow she would see the room as it really looked, and Lottie as she really looked, and the warmed over turkey in its second day glory. Tonight she saw only what she had come seeking. A place in her sister's home and heart. She said, "That's enough about me. Have the years used you?" "It was me who didn't use them," said Lottie wistfully. "I saved for them. I forgot the best of them would go without my ever spending a day or a dollar enjoying them." That's my life story in those few words. A life never lived. Now it's too near to the end to try. Bess said, "To know how much there is to know is the beginning of learning to live." Don't count the years that are left us. At our time of life, it's the days that count. You've got too much catching up to do to waste a minute of a waking hour feeling sorry for yourself. Lottie grinned, a real wide-open grin. "Well, to tell the truth, I felt sorry for you. Maybe if I had any sense, I'd feel sorry for myself after all. I know I'm too old to kick up my heels, but I'm going to let you show me how. If I land on my head, I guess it won't matter. I feel giddy already, and I like it." Now let's take a moment to reflect on these two sisters.